going to recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Director Gabbard, as was well covered yesterday in January, you were present at the execution of an FBI warrant at the Fulton County, Georgia election office at the direction of the president and to all appearances in connection with the president's false claims about the 2020 election. The unsealed affidavit submitted by the FBI made zero reference to foreign powers or outside interference. I don't want to relitigate the reasons why you were there, but I do want to know whether as a result of your visit there is credible intelligence in your possession pointing to foreign interference in Georgia in the 2020 election.
Thank you for the question, Ranking Member. As you know, over each of the previous elections, there is an ongoing effort by different foreign entities.
Ma'am, it's a very specific question. Is there intelligence in your possession relative to foreign interference in the 2020 elections? Very simple, straightforward question.
We are continuing to look at previous attempts to interfere in our elections and any ongoing threats that may exist for the upcoming elections.
Okay, but can I assume that the answer to my question is no, that you have no specific intelligence related to foreign meddling in the Georgia election?
We are continuing to look into this matter.
Okay. Director, the ODNI has confirmed on the record that your office took custody of voting machines from Puerto Rico last May. I'm not aware of any previous DNI taking similar actions. Did your office promptly notify the committee about taking custody of Puerto Rico's voting machines?
I don't believe we did. However, this was done at the request of the Puerto Rico AUSA attorney.
Ma'am, it's a yes or no question.
The
answer, as you have acknowledged, is no. You did not inform the committee about the taking of a territory's voting machines. Is there a specific foreign threat? And I've read the reporting that you were looking for possible foreign threats, but is there a specific foreign threat that drove you to take this action?
There were questions about whether or not there were vulnerabilities that a threat could have taken advantage of, and that was the purpose for their requesting us to look into those vulnerabilities.
Where are those voting machines now?
I believe they are held in a secure facility at ODNI.
Have you or other ODNI officials taken any other state or territory's voting equipment into custody?
Not to my knowledge.
I want to turn in the subject of elections to a paradoxical thing. You will all be aware that the U.S. government is apparently going to grind to a halt. The president is going to sign no more bills. The Senate will spend 2 weeks apparently debating the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act, of course, would make illegal foreigners voting in U.S. elections, which is already illegal. So we are to do no more business because of apparently the existential threat to our democracy associated with foreigners voting in our elections.
In a tense congressional hearing, one simple question refused to go away. Not complex, not classified, just direct. Did the United States actually have intelligence showing an imminent threat from Iran? And when Jim Hims asked Tulsi Gabbard that question, everything that followed raised more concerns than answers. This moment comes during a high-stakes intelligence hearing in 2026. Lawmakers are trying to understand the justification behind potential U.S. military action against Iran. At the center of it all is one legal and political threshold: imminent threat. In U.S. policy, that phrase isn't just technical, it's what separates defense from escalation. Hims doesn't ask a broad question. He doesn't ask about Iran's long-term capabilities. He narrows it down to one point. Is there any intelligence that Iran was about to attack? Imminently, it's the kind of question designed to produce only two possible answers, yes or no. But instead of choosing either, Gabbard pivots. She talks about Iran's general threat level. She references capabilities. She expands the scope. What she doesn't do is confirm the existence of imminent, actionable intelligence. And that distinction is exactly what Hims is trying to expose. So Hims tightens the frame. He strips away the gray areas, not future threats, not hypothetical risks, not strategic concerns. Just one thing: was there intelligence showing an attack was about to happen? And again, no direct answer. That silence becomes the loudest part of the exchange. Because if there's no clear evidence of an imminent threat, then the entire justification for military action starts to weaken. This isn't just a policy disagreement. It raises deeper questions. Was intelligence overstated? Was it interpreted loosely, or was it used to support a decision already made? And those questions don't stay in that hearing room, they ripple into public trust. This moment puts pressure on multiple fronts. For the administration, it challenges credibility on national security. For intelligence officials, it exposes how carefully words are chosen and avoided. And for Congress, it reinforces its role as a check on executive power. But most importantly, it draws a line between two realities: what is possible and what is proven. And in matters of war, that difference is everything.
I am therefore puzzled by the fact that neither the unclassified nor the classified threat assessment makes any reference to risk or danger associated with foreigners voting in our elections. Director Patel, how many non-citizens have been convicted of voting in U.S. elections in the last 10 years?
The conviction stats are with the Department of Justice. I defer to them on that.
You are the director of the FBI. Give me a guess. How many convictions in the last 1 year, 5 year, or 10 years? Ballpark.
I don't have that with me, sir. Again, it's with the department.
You don't have that. Okay. Director Patel, how many active investigations does the FBI have into foreign individuals voting in U.S. elections?
We have a number of investigations, generally speaking, ongoing about individuals across the country.
Yeah, I'm asking for that number.
I don't have that number with me, but I have a number of them.
You have a number of investigations. Okay, is that number 10,000? Is it closer to 10,000 or closer to 10?
It's probably somewhere in between.
Okay, will you please provide the committee with that number?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Director Patel, since you don't have the numbers, would it surprise you to know that the Heritage Foundation, which is not exactly the Columbia University Faculty Lounge, found only 77 instances of non-citizen voting in the 24 years between 1999 and 2023, each of which faced investigation by the appropriate authorities. So Heritage has a number of 77 examples in 24 years. Does that number surprise you?
No, because it's low.
I don't understand your answer.
You asked me if I was
Are you
surprised by that
disputing?
number.
Are you
I'm not.
disputing that the number is in the range of 77 examples of non-U.S. citizens voting in U.S. elections in a 24-year period?
I just said that number's low.
You think that number is low? Okay. So why, if this is a meaningful issue, do we have no, and I guess I direct this to Director Gabbard, why is there no mention of this thing that will grind the American government to a halt for a 2-week period in the worldwide threats analysis?
This annual threat assessment was shaped around the national security strategy's prioritization of threats to our nation and our nation's interests. There are multiple platforms and venues where there have been and there will be reporting on threats to our foreign threats to our elections.
I yield back.
The room is tense but controlled. Cameras are rolling, lawmakers are watching closely, and the stakes are far bigger than the exchange that's about to unfold. Congressman Jim Hims leans forward and asks what should be a simple question. Not a speech, not a theory, just a direct, factual answer. Is there any intelligence, any at all, that shows an imminent threat from Iran? That word matters. Imminent. Not possible, not hypothetical, not someday. Imminent. Because in Washington, that word is often the line between restraint and war. Tulsi Gabbard doesn't answer it directly. Instead, she begins to widen the scope. She talks about Iran's capabilities, long-term risks, the broader threat environment, the kind of answer that sounds substantial but carefully avoids the core of the question. Hims doesn't let it go. He repeats himself, tightens the frame, brings it back. I'm not asking about general threats. I'm asking about imminent threat. There's a pause. And in that pause, something becomes very clear. This isn't just a disagreement. It's a clash over what justifies military action in the first place. Gabbard continues to pivot, staying within the boundaries of caution, never quite crossing into a definitive yes. And that's when the tone shifts. Hims isn't just asking anymore. He's pressing. Because if there is no intelligence showing an imminent threat, then the entire premise behind escalation starts to unravel. That's the implication hanging in the air. Across the panel sits Kash Patel, the FBI director, part of a broader leadership structure being questioned about intelligence consistency and decision-making at the highest levels. Kash Patel, this isn't just about one agency. It's about whether the intelligence community as a whole is aligned, or whether different parts are operating under different interpretations of the same reality. And that matters, because historically, intelligence has been the backbone of major U.S. foreign policy decisions. When that intelligence is clear, leaders act with confidence. When it's ambiguous, things get complicated. And when it's questioned in public like this, it becomes political. Hims keeps going, he narrows it even further, almost forcing a binary outcome. Yes, there is intelligence of an imminent threat. Or no, there isn't, but that answer never comes. Instead, what the audience sees is something more revealing than a simple yes or no. They see hesitation, framing, careful language. And in Washington, careful language usually means one thing: the truth is not politically convenient. What makes this moment powerful is not just what's said, but what isn't, because outside that room, decisions have already been made, military postures adjusted, strategies set in motion. And here, in front of cameras, a lawmaker is essentially asking, what was that based on? This is where the political implications deepen. If intelligence did not clearly indicate an imminent threat, then policymakers may have relied on broader interpretations, capabilities instead of intent, possibilities instead of plans. That's a major shift. It lowers the threshold for action. It moves the standard from "we know something is about to happen" to "something could happen." That difference is enormous. It means future decisions could be justified not by concrete evidence, but by strategic assumptions. That's exactly what oversight hearings are designed to test. According to statements made around the same hearing, Hims emphasized that no intelligence agency had produced a report confirming an imminent threat from Iran, raising serious questions about the justification for escalation. So now the exchange isn't just about Gabbard's answer, it's about credibility. If intelligence leaders cannot clearly articulate the basis for high-stakes decisions, trust begins to erode, not just in Congress but with the public. And that has ripple effects. Allies start asking questions. Adversaries take notice. And internally, agencies face pressure to align their messaging, whether or not the underlying data fully supports it. Back in the hearing, Hims is doing something very deliberate. He's creating a record. Every unanswered question, every deflection, every noncommittal response, it all becomes part of the official transcript. A documented moment that can be referenced later, debated, analyzed, and potentially used to challenge future claims. Because in politics, what you say under oath matters, but what you avoid saying can matter even more. Gabbard maintains composure. She doesn't concede the point, but she also doesn't provide the clarity being demanded, and that's the tension. Not a dramatic outburst, not a viral shouting match, but something quieter and in many ways more significant, a gap between question and answer, a gap between intelligence and policy, a gap between what is known and what is being acted upon. These are the moments that don't always explode immediately, but linger, they resurface later, in reports, in debates, in election cycles, because at its core, this exchange is about accountability. Who decides when a threat is serious enough to act? What standard of proof is required? And who gets to challenge that standard when the stakes are this high? By the end of the questioning, there's no dramatic resolution, no headline-ready confession, but something has shifted. The narrative is no longer just about external threats, it's about internal justification. And that may be the more consequential story. Because once the question is raised, once the possibility enters public consciousness that decisions may not fully align with the intelligence presented, it changes how everything that follows is interpreted. That's what makes this moment powerful, not because it provides answers, but because it forces the question to exist.